Jen, I wanted to talk to you today because first, let me get your reaction to last night. Pretty, pretty impressive in New York. We don't know yet in Kentucky. For those in the audience that don't know, Jennifer Pearlman running in the 23rd district against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's been in there, I think, going on almost 20 years. I think she got elected in 2004. Everybody knows Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Tim Canova lost to her by 14 points in 2016. There was, in my view, election fraud, but 14 points, manageable. And frankly, I think Jen brings things that he didn't. So what do you think about last night before we get to where your race is at?
I think it was promising. I feel pretty decent about it. I mean, look, I was most closely watching the New York race with Jamal Bowman and Elliot Engel, and I was really happy about that. He's a Slate mate, so I'm rooting for him. And I'm still hoping that there's some chance for Kentucky to turn it around and have Charles Booker be their nominee.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you woke up early enough to watch MSNBC's spin, but I just played a clip that they seem to think it's not really about like the progressive issues starting to become more mainstream or Elliot Engel being a corporatist out of touch. It's just that voters are starting to just want change and want these old people who have been in there for too long out. So they were kind of playing down anything having to do with Bowman, progressive bona fides, Medicare for all. Obviously, he's been a victim of police brutality that he made a point. What do you think in terms of, obviously it's a district in New York, but I mean, it encompasses Westchester, by the way, which is a pretty wealthy neighborhood. I mean, looks like he's going to win by 25 points. So what do you attribute to these victories in New York and elsewhere?
I'm thankful for the revolution. I think it's awesome. So, first of all, I have to say I don't watch MSNBC, and the only reason I normally even get that news is because of people like you. So I haven't watched you yet today, so I don't really know what exactly has been going on. So let me say that. But I think it's more than obviously MSNBC is ever going to acknowledge. They're never going to actually look at why would people want change? Why would that be? I don't know. So I think the tides are turning. I think there's becoming more younger people than older people. This is definitely a very generational divide. And, I think people are just, they're tired of it. But it's more the people that are young that are tired of what they've seen than it is the old people that are the ones that want to keep the status quo.
Mm-hmm. And why part of why I wanted you on is honestly, I see a couple more races that could be very close. Missouri, Cori Bush, who hopefully I'll interview soon. But you have till August for the primary there. Wasserman Schultz, yes, that district, which I covered in 2016 in person, tends to be a little bit older, tends to vote a little bit more establishment. But there is a pretty significant number of Latinos, African Americans, I think college students. And from what I've heard, anecdotally, people might be open to a change there too. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, other than, verbally, criticizing Governor Ron DeSantis, obviously Florida is kind of becoming New York right now as far as the coronavirus pandemic. I haven't seen her propose anything really bold for the economic devastation. I haven't seen her propose anything bold economically in 20 years, really. And I think even that district, which tends to be a little bit more establishment, are you getting feedback that people are looking for a change there?
I am amongst the people I talk, that I speak with, but I tend to talk with people that are outside of the periphery of what has been the norm. So a lot of her audience and her target are people that I know those people. I'm a second generation native Jew to South Florida. I'm very familiar with those people. I've actually been focusing on not those people for this and really bringing in people from outside. So to them, they have never felt included in the process in the first place. But, I don't see her as proposing anything. I don't see her, certainly not for regular people. So, over the past few weeks, she just had a webinar on childhood drowning. She had one on internet predators. She has not, since this pandemic started, even talked about what regular people need or what small businesses need in general. So the best way to deflect from that.
Florida at one point was like the epicenter of the foreclosure crisis many years ago from the 2008 financial crash. But Florida, heavily based on tourism, that's going to be a problem with I think they had like over 5,000 new cases yesterday. Yeah, every day is like a record new number. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, it seems, is kind of going the national party playbook, which is to have before nothing, just call Governor DeSantis, like Trump, the Antichrist, how they botched this, which they have. But in your district, what are you seeing? Because it is an older, a lot of Jewish people. What are you seeing in terms of the people you've spoken to? What are they looking for now? Because in the past, it just looked like when I was down there, we're just Team Blue and are going to vote for who we know.
You're talking in terms of my race, not
your race.
Okay. Yeah, I am meeting more and more people that are more and more fed up. So whether or not it's based on anything from their economic position to what's going on right now with the policing and criminal justice, or whatever the particular person's issue is, with the young people, it's very heavily climate related. Most of my young people, that's how I got them, is through Sunrise Movement. But for whatever reason, people are just feeling angst. They're feeling angst and they're feeling unsettled. And when people feel unsettled, I think it opens up the possibility for a change, because what people don't like about change is that it's unsettling. But right now, so many people are unsettled that it's like an opening for change. So it's really been interesting. And yeah, there's still those tried and true old school. They like it how they like it. And for the most part, those people don't have any angst in their life. Mm-hmm. When everything is fine with the way if your life is perfectly fine, why would you want anything to change? But now we have such an increasing amount of people that do want that because their lives are unsettled. So I think it gives it puts more people on our team.
Mm-hmm. And where is Debbie? I feel like she's in the witness protection program. I rarely see her on MSNBC and CNN anymore. I don't really see her in the news that much. Has she taken the Joe Biden basement strategy, or does she just? I just don't see her much where she used to be.
Yeah, and I see her enough. She's around. If I were looking at this from an outsider perspective and it wasn't on that I was in it, I would say, yeah, it kind of looks like she's just staying low. She's not a stupid person. So she knows that when she's public, she sees all the negative comments. She knows that she's disliked. So she knows that. She doesn't particularly care, but she knows it. So I do think she avoids, being in the spotlight. And I think that a big thing for her right now is she's trying to pretend that I don't exist and this race doesn't exist. So she is walking a very fine line, because on the one hand, she has to get her voters out to come out and vote in a primary. But on the other hand, then they're going to know that there's somebody else running, or why is she running in a primary? And so she's been sort of straddling this for about 6 months now. And it's finally coming to where she has to acknowledge we exist. I found out she was doing polling last week. I've been pushing buttons. I've been poking at that bear, and so I'm trying to get something. But she's too smart to really do that, and that's one thing in her favor, I suppose.
And let me ask you, because 2016. Ballots were destroyed. The supervisor of elections ended up being fired later. Obviously, you were seeing in Kentucky yesterday. I mean, it was just visually. You see black people banging on the window to try to get in to vote. How confident are you in the actual credibility of elections in South Florida, particularly amid coronavirus? Florida being as high a case count now, there will be expansion of mail-in voting, but we do know there has been shenanigans down there. We also know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has her tentacles in just about every part of Democratic Party Florida politics.
I wish I could say that I was very confident that everything is under control, but I am not. I feel like everybody else. I will say that we do have a new supervisor of elections that's different from who there was in 1816, who was a friend of Debbie's. So we do have what I would consider to be an infinitely more impartial supervisor of elections. I've met him. He's a very, very competent person. That doesn't mean that there aren't means to do voter suppression that would just benefit the establishment in general, not necessarily her versus me. And it might not even have anything to do with my race. It could just be, we could be collateral damage. So I'm not particularly confident, but we are encouraging everybody to request their mail-in ballot. Because my concern logistically is exactly what happened in Kentucky. You know, let's say you have 500 polling places and then you shut it down to 50 polling places. That's the kind of stuff that could legitimately be COVID related, that they can't get enough people to work the polls. It could be the kind of thing that is an underhanded plotted thing. Regardless, if everybody requests a mail-in ballot, then we could at least have that security of knowing that we're not losing polling places is not going to affect us.
Right. And the other element too is, I don't know, I was talking about this yesterday, but I mean, unemployment benefits expire at the end of July. A large portion of Americans have not gotten the unemployment benefits that they're supposed to have had. The $1,200 crumb cake check that people got was spent in 10 seconds. I don't see the Republicans agreeing to another thing like that. And right now it seems like Democrats are basically just all in for Joe Biden, not really talking about what comes next. In New York and other states, eviction moratoriums are already starting to peel back. So the economic conditions, doesn't look like Trump could be surprised, but doesn't look like he's going to go any further left economically, or the Republicans. So the economic conditions could get a lot worse down there in Florida and elsewhere.
I am fully expecting to be seeing shanty towns popping up all over the place down here. And I am fully expecting to see infinitely more violence, unfortunately. I think that while I am not a proponent of violence, unfortunately, power concedes nothing. And it's just a matter of this is the direction that people are being pushed into in desperate situations. So I think it's going to get really ugly before it gets better. I don't think that, and certainly here with our governor, Ron DeSantis, our unemployment situation is a complete nightmare. I get emails from people every day wanting me to help them. I wish I could. I wish there was a way I could help. They just want help navigating the system. They're not even asking for more than their crumbs. They just want to try to figure out how to get their crumbs. And I don't know how much of that somebody like Debbie would have real control over, but she's certainly not really ringing the bells and sounding alarms to really fight on behalf of the people as much as just criticizing the governor. So it's like, okay, but what are you doing in the meantime? So our campaign is a service campaign. So we are out there distributing food, giving out masks, giving out sanitizers. And no, it's not fixing the unemployment problem because that's not within our control to fix that, but it's providing a service and relief. And that's what we need to be doing right now, I think, as anybody that's in a public position. That's what we need to be doing. We could sit here and be bad-mouthing DeSantis forever. It doesn't mean it's going to fix the system. I can't go up to Tallahassee and fix their unemployment system.
You're talking about representing people? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I am. And actually, it's fascinating because I've been doing it even not as a representative. So imagine what could be done if you actually were the representative.
Right. And I'd also like to bring up, because Lee Camp has been talking about this. I'm interviewing him later. But we're seeing what's going on with COVID right now. This, I don't want to diminish it because it's obviously a disaster for a lot of people, kind of pales in comparison to what's coming once the climate refugees get here, once Miami's underwater, and parts, unfortunately, where you are looking to represent.
I'm on high ground. I'm on the highest point in Broward County. I'm good.
Well, my point is, the climate disaster is, I don't want to say coming because it's really already here. I mean, the Arctic was just at 100 degrees. And, you're not going to really be able to do temporary shutdowns then and then contact trace, right? I mean, it's so that. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz takes a whole lot of money from the fossil fuckers in addition to big sugar. I don't want to get you in trouble. That's my term. But in addition to big sugar and payday lending and all these agencies. So the bottom line is she is part of the problem that's going to lead to the more permanent pandemic, which is the climate catastrophe.
Right, which it was why it was so entertaining on Friday morning when I had my joint interview with her at the Sun Sentinel. It was the closest I'll ever get to debating her. And this is why it was so amusing watching her talking about the importance of coming down on police brutality when she takes the highest amount from police packs out of all the Democrats. But no, we're in for a rude awakening. And specifically down here, we just entered hurricane season. So when you want to talk about the real effects of refugees and climate crisis, all it's going to take is a Category 5 hitting us right now, and we're toast. So I get that. And it is definitely going to get worse before it's going to get better. And at this point, I don't even know that it can be fixed. But I certainly feel an obligation to do everything we can to mitigate damages and make it as, dealable for everybody as possible, and keep this planet as nice as it can be, at least to the best of our ability at this point. I mean, are we inevitably going to be gone? Possibly. I mean, the dinosaurs were here longer than we've been here. And, we're very arrogant. We think we're so self-important, like somehow we're going to ruin the whole thing. But I do think that we have an obligation to take care of it as best we can, certainly for the people that are here.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, because before this resurgence in the Black Lives Matter movement, part of your campaign has been about private prisons, legalizing marijuana, decriminalization of a lot of these crimes. What has been your thoughts seeing this really awakening, not just with police brutality, but you're seeing media, a lot of black journalists now bringing up problems with media diversity, white editors making decisions. We're seeing diversity in government, racism in sports. I mean, across the board. And that has been part of your campaign before this protest movement sparked.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, one of the things that I loved coming out of law school was doing criminal defense, and I've always been very anti-capital punishment. I've always had issues with the criminal justice system in general, and I feel like every day of my life I'm finding more and more wrong with it. And just when I think I couldn't find something else wrong with it, there's something else wrong with it. And essentially, it's just a completely racist, white supremacist system built on top of another. And it's not even a matter of there's good cops. There are good cops. I know them. I've met them. There's lots of people that actually go into law enforcement that want to protect and serve. The problem is the system is completely corroded that they're working within. And so decent cops actually, if they are whistleblowers, they don't last long. So the system is just, it's a disaster. And as much as I feel for people who don't like the civil unrest, it's necessary. And it's unfortunate that the conditions have to get to the point where they do before this happens. But I kind of feel like bring on the revolution. I do. This has been well needed for a long time. I always thought, if growing up, if I were Black, I would have been in prison. I would have been in prison. There is no way. So to me, it's when people start talking about stuff and saying things like Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization or whatever it is they want to call them. I'm thinking, if Black Lives Matter was a terrorist organization, we'd be finding white bodies hanging in trees. So this needs to happen, and it needs to predominantly be coming from white people. Right.
And lastly, to me, I mean, I've had some criticisms of AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, which I think is healthy. You shouldn't idolize any politician. But the truth is, the progressive bloc in Congress just does not have the numbers that the Tea Party had to really create a shitstorm. They haven't really had the numbers to block anything Pelosi has tried to do. So if you are elected, what do you think in terms of joining this progressive bloc? Is the goal to just block what the corporate Democratic establishment has done? Or is it to continue to basically, a giant extinction project to take over? Because it seems like we're doing this piecemeal, like every congressional season, maybe 2 or 3 victories. So what would be the goal if you're elected, along with Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, and possibly some others?
Obviously, day one is signing on to all the legislation that's sitting there that needs more signatures. Okay, so first and foremost, let's push with the good Medicare for all that Pramila Jayapal already has sitting there. And I think it's important for people to understand that this is a chipping away process. It's not even after 2020, even if the best case scenario from every primary going forward, it's still not enough numbers to really do anything right now. And I think people need to be realistic about that. But that's not the power. The power is in getting everybody else, whether it's within your own district or as far as you can spread your platform and your message, to start coming along and getting on board and getting more and more of us. So it needs to be used more as a recruitment situation and really promoting things at the local level. Like for me, I'm very about promoting our local small businesses here. It's about using your platform and your voice to get as many people on your team as you can get on your team. It's like what Bernie used to say about, even if I get in office, there's no just Medicare for all. I will have to go around and I will have to be campaigning, and I will have to be all of us getting more and more people in the positions of power. So I think it's really more about getting people in that want to keep bringing other people in.
Mm-hmm. And where can people find out more? Tell us about, like, what are you really can't do anything in person right now with COVID, Florida, along with Texas, Arizona being the epicenter of COVID right now. So what are you doing for your campaign? I've been seeing you doing nightly live streams. I assume you need volunteers. How can people help?
We definitely need volunteers. Obviously, a big portion right now is phone banking, and it's a very easy thing to do. People can do it from wherever. Go on to gen2020.com. You can sign up to be a phone banker. We are doing limited canvassing, which is just consisting of door hangers and delivering yard signs, but we're not knocking and talking and doing what would be in our best interest to be doing. So we are relying very heavily on social media. So everybody like, follow, share. I'm at GenFL23 on Twitter and Instagram, and at Gen2020 on Facebook. And that's really what we need. And yeah, we need money. We need money. I'd encourage at this point, if anybody wants to be a monthly donor, we only have 2 more months, so it would be a really good time to be a monthly donor. And spread the word. That's what we need.
And the primary is August 17th?
August 18th.
August 18th.
August 18th.
Okay.
But more importantly, make sure everyone knows that they have to be registered as a Democrat by July 20th. That's the other thing. We have closed primaries.
Got it. Okay. So thank you, Jen. We'll be in touch before primary date for sure. And good luck.
Thanks so much, Jordan.
Okay, take care. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.